it is, how did anyone make it out of that alive? Fact 3. The Plains tribes didn't have horses for 10,000 years. Here's a fact few people stop to think about. Horses disappeared from North America along with the mammoths about 10,000 years ago. Completely vanished.
Now that's something I would have to look in a little farther.
So every movie scene.
What you telling me, and I'd have to figure out what would be the ulterior motive behind you telling me that these Northern Kingdom Indians lived on this land for over 2,000 years before the Edomites got here, the colonizers got here. Although the Moors have been traveling back and forth over here from, during their reign in the Dark Ages. You mean to tell me they never thought to bring horses over here? That's something I'd have to stop and think about, because that's, because the motive behind this would be them furthering the idea that these people were primitive. But I don't see how they could get all the pyramids done, get all the logs cut without tools and all of that. If they could make iron tools and have structures over here, they're trying to, then they had horses. They had everything over here, right? They had buffalo. How did all of that get over here? So you saying the Most High did not prepare this land for the Northern Kingdom when he sent them over here. He meant for them to just walk everywhere or stay in one little area. They couldn't hunt the buffalo like they needed to, until the Edomites got here. I don't believe that, but let's listen to it some more.
Showing native warriors on horseback before 1700 is pure fiction. The Spanish brought horses back in the 1500s, but it was the Pueblo Revolt of 1680 in New Mexico that changed everything.
So, they didn't get horses, but they had a Pueblo Revolt in the 1600s, but they didn't get horses until the 1700s. So I guess the Edomites and everybody was just running, chasing, and fighting on foot. Well, that could possibly be, But another thing I want to say, that they came over here in 1492, right? And that would explain why they could not defeat the indigenous people on this land, because there was only a few of them and they could not really fight against them. So I will accept that explanation. It's an ulterior motive behind these people, man. But we got to evaluate all the evidence and all the, everything that they exhibit, that they exhibit evidence that they provide before us. And then we have to go back and examine it, all the data. So they're saying it, because they came over in 1492 again, I'll say that, and they didn't begin to conquer the territories that the indigenous people lived on until their first president is when they coup d'etat the government. Now, if King James ruled the Dark Age, and they was on, we got photos of them on horses in the Dark Age, the castles and storming castles and having horses, and you mean to tell me they had all these people over here and they would not bring a bargain, they would not bring horses over here to bargain with the indigenous people over here? They just kept watching them for I guess 800 years. They have been coming back and forth from Morocco over here while King James was ruling over in Spain and ruling the Dark Ages, while we say the Edomites were in caves. And so the Spaniards, the people didn't have anything to ride on. They just walked miles, and that's hard to believe. But I would say maybe the Edomites didn't have horses until they brought them over here. You know, maybe they kept the horses away from the Edomites by the indigenous people had horses and the Edomites didn't. Now that sounds more logical than to say these people were here 2,000 years traveling back and forth to Morocco and they never thought to bring horses when they saw those horses. And right here in the video said it took them what 3 years or 3 months, 3 years to conquer to become professional or conquer the animals. In other words, become the best riders, the best caretakers for the animals. The horses love the indigenous people. So you say that they became more in tune and friendly and what's the word I'm trying to use? Bonded with the animals in the little time that they had with them than all of the people on the earth. That's what he's saying. The Northern Kingdom, they tamed and became more bonded with the animal than anybody in the world ever had done, and it was in a very short time. Let's keep listening.
When native people drove out the colonizers, Spanish horse herds spread across the Southwest. And here's the impressive part.
So right here it says when the native people drove out the colonizers, the horse herds spread it. When did they drive out? How did they drive out the Spaniards? How did they drive out the Spaniards on foot? And the Spaniards brought horses over here. And how did they were on foot, the natives, but they drove out the Spaniards, riding horses. That don't make sense. See, so that's a lie. That's something you got to think about right there. And they said that's how the Native Americans got the indigenous people here, the Coppertone people got a hold to the horses because I guess the indigenous people didn't know what to do with the horses. So when they ran the colonizers back to the boats and ran them out. How in the hell they ran them out and they still here? Then the horses spread it all over and ran wild and, populated the Americans. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. They want us to believe that. Let's keep listening.
30 years. Tribes that had never gone near a horse mastered riding like no one else in history.
You hear that? 30 years. They learned they mastered riding the horses and mastered the relationship with the horse like no one else in history. That's a lie right there. How in the hell do they know? King James had horses. There was horses all down through the ancient time. There were horses. So see how they lied? They lied, man. They wake up lying, man. Let's listen to that again.
It was the Pueblo Revolt of 1680 in New Mexico that changed everything. When native people drove out the colonizers, Spanish horse herds spread across the Southwest. And here's the impressive part. In just 30 years, tribes that had never gone near a horse mastered riding like no one else in history. That whole Plains warrior culture Hollywood, sold for decades, was built in less time than it takes to pay off a car loan. Fact 4. Deadwood existed outside the law.
Okay, so yeah, it's a lot of stuff in this video. It's a good video. Go watch it. But we know they're still lying. They can't stop lying, man. These people cannot stop lying. They're not going to stop lying. They're going to keep recreating their narrative to cut us off from being a nation. So just remember that. But like they said, just look at the time. Just look at the timeline. It took him almost 300 years to conquer the territory enough to where they would start shipping the Native Americans, the indigenous people, down in South America and South America, Central America, to start building their empires down there. That's when they started building their empires, when they, when they got control of the horses, the Gatling gun, and they coup d'etat, took over the government that was already established here, because we know there were at least 5 black presidents, working Moors and indigenous people. The Moors fled over here. Also, they ran down in Africa. That's why IUIC, they will go and evangelize Africa, because they know that they know, and that's what they hold to, that the Israelites, the Negroids, the Israelites were in West Africa, North and South West Africa, right? But you never see them, just to put this out here, maybe light a fire under them, you never see them going after those dark-skinned indigenous people all down in South. It's over 200 million of those people down there saying they went down there on slave ships. Not to me, no blacks. We know that some of those bloodlines are people without melanin, with very little melanin, but they tan. They tan. But the ones that say me no blacks, they can show you that their fathers were Edomites. But you still lump them in and say they was in captivity too. Yeah, because the enemy sows seed among the wheat and went his way. That means he left those bastard children in the ghetto with us, right? So we gotta put it all together. I wish we could do a live, but they don't. None of the Israelite camps want to talk about this. So if they're not thinking logical, they can't reason logically. So, but all praise to the Most High. Hollywood's lying. Our people who say that the majority of Ephraim was light-skinned people, with the Mino black people, the people that don't have melanin in their skin, that's saying, we hate you black Israelites, we hate you people, we hate you, and we're not like you guys. We were never slaves like you guys. Our fathers are Edomites. And you say, no, y'all just don't know who you are. Just leave them alone? If they telling you that, leave them alone and go after the people who saying they're part of the slave ship. They went into slavery on ships. All of those people, over 150 million, 200 million down in Brazil and all around the islands, they're saying we came here on ships. They in slavery. They're not saying we were here when Columbus got here. They said they brought us here. Our ancestors. That's the stories being told, and y'all ignore them and say, "No, we gonna do better grabbing up the white, trying to convince these white Edomites that the bastard children that they was part of us." That's fear, man. All praises to the Most High.